Hi, and welcome back to another Truth Outreach program, a program that compares the teachings of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, or better known as the Mormons, to the teachings of Christianity. And the comparison, or the baseline document that we use for that comparison, is the Bible, the B-I-B-L-E, Basic Instruction Before Leaving Earth. I'm Rocky Hulse.
And I'm Helen, Rocky's wife, and we're the founders of Mormon Missions Midwest Outreach. And we're so thankful that you've joined us again today, and hope you enjoyed the program.
Yep, we are glad that you've joined us today. Now, we always start our program out with two quotes from Mormon leaders, which we believe justifies what we do. The first one is from Brigham Young himself. Brigham Young said, "I say to the whole world, receive the truth, no matter who presents it to you. Take up the Bible, compare the religion of the Latter-day Saints with it, and see if it will stand the test." The second quote is from his first counselor, whose name was George A. Smith, and he said, "If a faith will not bear to be investigated, if its preachers and professors are afraid to have it examined, their foundation must be very weak." So these two Mormon leaders themselves give us the legitimacy to do what we do in this program, which is comparing Mormonism to Christianity. And those of you that watch all the time, it's significantly different. You know, the Mormon church is out there saying today, you know, we're Christians just like you. But what we show in this program is, no, you're not Christians just like us, because the teachings of Christianity come from the Bible. The teachings of Mormonism don't come from the Bible. So you can use that language, and they do, in saying that they're Christians, but you know, they say, well, we believe in Jesus Christ, so that makes us Christians. Well, but the Jesus Christ that Mormonism teaches and puts forth in their religion is not the Jesus of the Bible. So they use the same word, they use the same term. They say, you know, Jesus Christ, but it's not the Jesus of the Bible, and that's the difference, and that's why this program exists, to show that. Now, today's program is program number 49. And the name of the program is The Mormon Church Buys Crossroads Plaza Mall. Now, the Deseret News, which is the Mormon-owned newspaper in Salt Lake City, reported on March the 19th that the Mormon Church would purchase the Crossroads Plaza Mall. I'll get that word out in a minute. I'm going to just put that up on the screen for you. This comes right out of the Mormon newspaper, Deseret News in Salt Lake City. The Mormon Church to buy Crossroads Plaza Mall in Salt Lake City. Now, in an article titled "Church to buy Crossroads Plaza Crossroads Plaza Mall," and I printed this off of the internet. Lights are kind of bright, but
well, we actually showed that in last week's program. That very newspaper, it comes out weekly.
Well, that was the Church News is an insert to that. Yeah. This year I just downloaded it off of the internet.
That comes out daily.
But yeah, this was back in March the 19th, 2003. An article right out of the Deseret News. It says, "Church to buy the Crossroad Plaza Mall." Now, what this article says is, it says, "The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints announced Wednesday it has reached an agreement to purchase the Crossroads Plaza Mall. The agreement in principle includes the shopping mall and the adjoining office tower." So it's not just a mall, they're also buying an office tower building that goes with it. The church said in a statement, "Financial terms were not disclosed." We'll see why.
They don't
disclose anything they do. "Financial terms were not disclosed, though the church indicated the funds would be paid from investment reserves. The transaction is expected to be complete in the next several weeks, pending finalization of terms with the mall operators." Now, the church has long owned, and I'm continuing to read from this article out of Deseret News, "The church has long owned the majority of land upon which the mall stands, which is leased to Maryland-based mall operator Folger Pratt. It also owns, through its real estate arm, the adjacent ZCMI Center Mall." Now, ZCMI stands for Zion's Cooperative Mercantile Institution. And that goes way back to Brigham Young. He started that store and made a bunch of money off of it. The church still owns it today, ZCMI, and it says that they own the adjacent ZCMI Center Mall. The two have shared marketing and promotional operations for several years.
Well, you notice that the name Pratt was in there.
But I'm not sure that there's any relation to that.
Prominent name in Mormonism.
True. LDS Church presiding Bishop H. David Burton told the Deseret News on Wednesday that Folger Pratt approached the church some time ago, suggesting it might be interested in purchasing Pratt's interest in the mall. As they, Folger Pratt, I'm continuing to read from this article, as they, Folger Pratt, have tried to negotiate with Nordstrom and other potential tenants, they have not been as successful as they would have liked, Burton said. They suggested that perhaps their interest would be made available and that we might consider it. Representatives from Folger Pratt did not immediately respond to requests for interviews. When asked about the future of Crossroads, Burton said it was not likely that the church will make any significant changes in the mall's operations. It will continue to work with ZCMI Center, the mall across the street, he said, which hopefully will result in synergistic approaches to leverage our interest between those two blocks. So, this article out of the Deseret News of the church talks about this purchase. Now, why would the Mormon Church buy a large shopping mall? I've never seen this mall. I've never seen Crossroads Mall, at least that I'm aware of. So how do I know that it's a big shopping mall? The second or the third paragraph in there said that one of the tenants, or maybe it was the fourth or fifth paragraph, whatever, but it said that one of the tenants was Nordstrom's. Well, folks, Nordstrom's is a high-dollar, big, nice store. It's not your.
It's an upper scale.
It's an upper scale. It's not, Kmart or Walmart where we shop. Target where we shop. It's a big dollar store. It's an upper, as Helen says, okay? So that's why I know it's a big mall, because they don't go into some little strip mall or something.
No,
this is one of the big mega mall kind of things. Now, the last paragraph said the Mormon Church was not likely to make any significant changes in the mall's operation. Now, the logical question, if you are a Christian, that is, why would a church buy a mall? Do they intend to put church offices in there or something? Do they intend to use it as part of their church functions or whatever? No, they don't. The article said that they weren't going to change mall operations. They were just going to leave things, alone as they are. And the article said that across the street was another mall, the ZCMI Center Mall, that they also own and run. Now, up I have on the screen there says the Mormon Church owns, and this is a quote right out of that article, through its real estate arm, the adjacent ZCMI, that's Zion's Cooperative Mercantile Institution Center Mall. Now, what is ZCMI? Well, we just told you what it stood for, Zion's Cooperative Mercantile Institution, and it's a store kind of like a Walmart or a Kmart or a Target or something like that was started by the Mormon Church under Brigham Young way back in the 1850s, and it's part of the church's financial holdings today. So across the street from this big mega mall, they have the church owns this ZCMI mall, which is probably like a strip mall kind of thing.
Well, it's a pretty good size. It's a pretty good sized mall, according to a person who was born and raised in Utah that I spoke with just recently.
When you're talking about this, right? Now, folks, these are for-profit enterprises. This is for-profit. This is not non-profit. This is for-profit. Do other churches run commercial businesses? Do the Baptists own and run a bunch of commercial businesses? No. The Lutherans? No. The Presbyterians? No. The Methodists? No. The Assembly of Gods? No. The Mormon Church goes to...
Does this very TV station that we're sitting in today own for-profit enterprises?
No, it's a non-profit.
No, this is a non-profit ministry.
Absolutely. The Mormon Church goes to great lengths, to say, we're Christians just like you. Well, if you're a Christian just like us,
why won't you reveal?
Why do you and you alone have these huge commercial holdings, for-profit holdings? Where is a church supposed to be in business to make money? The Mormon Church is the 5th or the 6th largest denomination in the United States of America. The Catholics and the Southern Baptists are the two largest denominations. Yet the richest church in the U.S. is the Mormon Church. Their estimated worth is between 50 and 60 billion. Now that's billion with a B. 50 to 60 billion dollars. Now this is being filmed in 2003. Okay, so as time goes on, that value is only going to grow. Their net worth's only going to get, larger than it is. Now, if there's some Mormons out there watching and you're saying, well, those figures are wrong. Really? Well, then what are the figures? Because you as a Mormon do not know.
No.
You absolutely do not know as a Mormon, because your church hasn't publicly reported its income or released a public income statement since 1959.
I find that amazing. How is it possible that a church that is worth that amount of money does not have to release its statements of its non-profit status since 1950?
1959.
Okay, 1959, when we are just a very small ministry, 2 people, and we certainly have to have our books wide open for the IRS to see, as does this TV station, WTJR,
Absolutely.
does, and every other non-profit organization. So that is very disturbing in and of itself.
The Mormon Church, this is the year 2003, it's been 44 years since they have released a financial statement. In fact, I'll put a little thing up on the screen for you. This is out of the book, The Mormon Corporate Empire. It says, in the spring of 1959, the church reported expenses totaling $72.8 million. That was the last detailed financial statement the church made public. They haven't reported their income now for 44 years, in the year 2003.
And they won't. And they won't.
Yeah. The Mormon Church hasn't publicly reported its income or released any of those statements since 1959. That's just truly amazing. It is. I don't, as Helen said, I don't know how they can get away with that. There are
Obviously, they know somebody.
There are 2 very glaring issues here. Yeah. Number 1, if they are an IRS 501c3 nonprofit entity, they are required by law to report yearly. So, I don't know, maybe they're not IRS identified as a nonprofit like we are. I don't know. But if you're an IRS 501c3, then you have to report, and
they're a church, aren't they?
And they have to release that. Number 2, and here's the biggie. Irrelevant, I can't even speak, whether or not they are a 501c3 or not, and they report in accordance with the IRS rules and regulations or not.
What do they have to hide?
Well, how does the membership allow them to get away with that? I'm not aware of any church which doesn't produce an annual financial statement. Here's 2 books. This is where we got a lot of this information from. Now, these are 2 books. First one is called The Mormon Corporate Empire, and it was published back in 1985. It's an investigative reporter's book. And the second one's called Mormon America. And this was printed in 1999. Both of these books were done by investigative reporters looking into the finances, amongst some other things. The Mormon Corporate Empire was virtually all on finances. Mormon America had a big chapter in it and some other things. But they're investigative reportings about those holdings. I'm going to put up on the screen so you can not only just see what I said, but you can see the names of them. The first one, The Mormon Corporate Empire by Heinerman and Shoup, copyrighted 1985, and the second one is Mormon America by the Oslings. And those books, and that's the second one was copyrighted in 1999, those books, like I say, are done by investigative reporters.
Not anti-Mormons.
Right, they're just investigative reporters. Now why has there been 2 investigative books, written about the Mormon Church's finances and not about the Methodists or the Presbyterians or the Baptists? Well, it's pretty simple, actually, because no other churches hide their finances except the Mormons. The Baptists put out a report every year. The Methodists, the Lutherans, the Catholics, whatever. I mean, they put out, and local congregations, our church They put out a financial statement. Here it is. There's nothing to hide. So why hasn't the Mormon Church done that in 44 years? Not reported any. What do they have to hide? You know, I tell you, doesn't that just fly in the face of what a church is supposed to be? A church is supposed to be upfront and truthful about everything. And yet they won't report their income. So obviously they must have something to hide. Let's do a little comparison here, provided by this book here, Mormon America. Do a little comparison, and that is that in 1997, the Evangelical Lutheran Church of America, the ELCA, they had stocks and bonds portfolio of $152 million. Now, in 1997, it was estimated that the Mormon stocks and bonds portfolio was $6 billion. So when you do that comparison between two, now these two churches, the ELCA is almost the same size as the Mormon Church. When you compare them, you get that the ELCA to Mormon holdings was 2.5%. So the ELCA only had in liquid assets, when I say liquid assets, stocks and bonds are liquid because you can just put them on a market and sell them, turn them instantly into cash. That's what a liquid asset is. So in liquid assets, the ELCA, the Evangelical Lutheran Church of America, had $152 million in liquid assets. The Mormon Church had $6 billion. Okay? So the ELCA, like size, 2.5% as much as compared to the Mormon Church. Now, what did the ELCA, why do they have $152 million in stocks and bonds? Well, that's there to pay the pensions of their retiring pastors and stuff like that. That's what that is for.
And what is the one thing that the Mormon Church brags about consistently in their church? We have no paid clergy. We have no pastors that are paid.
And so they're not setting money aside to pay retirement of a pastor who's been a pastor for 40 or 50 years or whatever. That's one of the things that they jump on.
Like the ELCA. Yeah, that's one of the things that they jumped on Christianity about, is that we have paid pastors, hirelings of Satan.
Well, that comes, the hirelings of Satan stuff comes out of the Mormon temple ceremony. You know, and you hear this all the time. You see this on TV, and you certainly see it in the Mormon publications. They're always talking about the fact and promoting that they go around the world to help flood victims and earthquakes, and they're out there, you know, on the scene and all this kind of stuff. Well, you know, this is this really true?
Nope.
Well, let's take a look at it. The Mormon PR machine does a great job at promoting the Mormon image. But what's the real story? Okay? Well, I'm going to put up on the screen for you. Again, this comes out of the book Mormon America. Now, what it says is between 1984 and 1997, the Mormon Church, and this comes right out of, reported by the Mormon Church in their articles, newspaper articles and stuff like that, they donated $30.7 million in cash to non-Mormon humanitarian aid. Now, in the year, look at that, it's 1984 to 1997. In the year 1997 alone, the ELCA donated $15.44 million in cash for humanitarian aid. Now, the ELCA donated more than half as much in 1 year as the Mormon Church did in the previous 14. So the Mormon Church is out there, you know, saying, oh, we're donating all this and we're doing all this kind of stuff and whatever. And in 14 years of their reported donations in 1 year, the Lutheran Church, ELCA, donated more than half in 1 year what the Mormon Church did in 14.
Well, that's why they're working so diligently to join with other churches today and just be included. And that kind of like skips over how much money comes from the actual Mormon Church itself.
Well, you know,
it's like lumped into a basket. And that's another way of hiding their finances. You
know, the Catholics and many other, many Protestant sects, they support very extensive and expensive hospitals and educational ministries. The Mormons gave up all their hospitals. They used to have them, but they cost too much money. Now, isn't that amazing? They're the richest church in the U.S., but they don't have any Mormon hospitals out there, you know, like the Baptists and the Methodists and the
like
Lutherans.
St. Jude's Children's
St. Jude's, and
Hospital.
yeah, exactly, because, it costs too much money. Yet they're the richest church out there, and they don't have any
But that mall
of those.
they can have.
Yeah, but they, exactly.
With
okay?
Nordstrom's in it.
Now, here's another point. You name the city, the large city across America. I don't care what it is. Whether it's Los Angeles, whether it's Seattle, New York, Atlanta, Miami, Dallas, Denver. I don't care. Name any large city across the U.S., and there is not one downtown mission for the homeless, for the downtrodden that's run by the Mormon Church. Not one. They don't do that. All of the missions in large metropolitan areas that are there to help the down and out are all run by Christians and or some nonprofit homeless shelters or whatever. But none of it is by the Mormon Church. Now wait a minute. You know, they're saying we're Christians just like you. Well then, hello, I mean, come on. If they're Christian just like us, why are all of the Christian churches out there, the Baptists, the Lutherans, the Catholics, you know, why do they go down and fund and run and administer these downtown missions for the down and out, and the Mormon Church doesn't? That's just amazing. It really is. You know, Jesus, you know, he didn't just walk around Israel preaching to convert people to his gospel. He healed the sick and he fed the hungry. And that's what we as Christians should be doing. The poor and the downtrodden of American cities are being helped and they're being brought the gospel of Jesus Christ. They're being given a helping hand by the Catholics and Protestant missions and nonprofit organizations, while the richest church in the U.S. is buying malls. And it's just not malls, folks. They have all of these holdings. I mean, you just hear these little things and
Let's talk about the land that they own.
Well, they're the largest landowner in the United States next to the federal government.
There you go.
They own the largest cattle ranch in the United States. And that cattle ranch is not to provide beef to their welfare program. That cattle ranch down in Florida is a for-profit ranch. They have all kinds of for-profit enterprises. I can't sit here and tell you what they all are because
they're hidden.
They're hidden. These books are investigative reporters had to go out and try and find out this information. Well, why? Why do they have to try and find that out?
Because
if the Mormon Church is a church,
why don't they want people to know what they own?
Yeah, why do we have to send in investigative reporters to try and figure out what it is that they're doing? And why is it, as I just went over, all of the downtown missions, you know, the Salvation Army is in all of our big cities. And what a wonderful organization that is. What a wonderful job they do in helping the down and out and bringing Jesus Christ to the hurting. That's what they do. And so in those ministries, those downtown missions are a wonderful ministry. Not only are you clothing and feeding the poor, but you're feeding them the Word, the living Word, Jesus Christ.
Well, that's just like the Shepherd's Inn here in Quincy. I mean, that's exactly what the Shepherd's Inn is all about. And that is bringing help to those who need help. Isn't that true? So
there are so many Christian organizations out there that are doing this work, but you see, the point that I'm trying to make here is that the Mormon Church is saying we're Christians just like you.
But they don't do
But
those things.
they're not after the down and out. That's not what they do.
No, they're after the well-off. Is who they're after.
Well, exactly. I mean, why is it the richest church in the United States does not run not one downtown mission? Well, because that's not where their focus is. Why is it that the Salvation Army is down there? Why is it that the Baptists, the Catholics, the Methodists, the Lutherans, whatever, and many nonprofit organizations are in these inner city areas helping out the down and out people? Why is that? Because they have a heart for the poor, just like Jesus said that we're to help the poor. And so, why is it that the Mormon Church is buying malls and buying, I don't know, trucking companies? And somebody says, oh, they don't own a trucking company.
Well, they're buying up TV stations.
Do you know as a Mormon? You don't know, because you don't know either what your church owns, because they don't publish it.
Well, right now, they are attempting to buy all of the TV
There's like
radio
15 different radio and TV stations out there. Underneath, they have a corporation called the Bonneville Communications, which they own like 15 or 20 TV stations and radio stations now, and they're under contract to try and buy another 15 or 20. Why? Why are they?
They own all the newspapers in Utah except one.
Yeah. And they own a beneficial life insurance company. That's a for-profit industry. It's an insurance company. Actually, they own 4 insurance companies. The biggest one is Beneficial Life. Do any Christian churches do that? No, they don't. Now, like I said, and I pointed out, some Christian churches have some investment holdings, but that's to pay the retirement for their clergy. The whole thing here is,
the point is,
folks,
though, if that was being done to help the needy and to bring those to a saving knowledge of Jesus Christ, that would be different. But that's not.
That's not what it's for. It's for profit.
For profit.
And none of the other churches do that.
Right.
So when the Mormon Church says, "Oh, we're Christian just like you," because none of the Christian churches are out there running for-profit businesses trying to make money.
No.
And why is the Mormon Church the richest church in the United States, worth 50 to 60 billion? And why do I say 50 to 60?
Because you don't know.
Because we don't know. We only know what investigative reporters have given us. And if those figures are wrong, then I invite the Mormon Church to come forward and give us a financial report. The Baptists do, the Methodists do, our ministry does, other Christian ministries do. Why doesn't the Mormon Church? I guess it's because they've got something to hide. Because if they released their financial holdings, people would ask questions just like we're doing right now. ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox, CNN, they'd all be saying, wait a minute. So I guess
no one really will challenge them, though, because they're so large.
Yeah. Folks, we need to expand this ministry and get this teaching out to America. Help us do that. We're looking to expand and to get on other TV stations, maybe get up on a satellite system, but we can't do that without your help. Help us expand this teaching so that we can expose to the nation, to Christians, and to Mormons that don't know what we're talking about, have never seen the things we talk about on this program. Help us expand to do that. Bring this teaching so that we can bring Mormons and Christians to a saving knowledge of Jesus Christ. I shouldn't say and Christians, but to educate Christians about Mormonism so they won't fall prey to that false religion. Only got 10 seconds left. We thank you for tuning in and watching us. Thank you for those who do support us, and those who don't, please consider that. Lord bless you.